Hello and welcome to the Heart to Handle Sports Podcast. My name is Ismael Juan. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Heart to Handle Sports Podcast. It's been a long time. I hope everyone has a great 2023. I hope your teams do amazing. Obviously, not everyone's team can do amazing, but we'll see who ends up winning titles in 2023. You know, it's been a while since the last episode, so I want to do a little recap, a little shout out to Messi and Argentina for winning the World Cup. It was a very, outside of all the out of field stuff, which is very controversial, and we can all agree to that. It was a very exciting World Cup. There was a lot to talk about. Messi wins it, pretty much cements himself as the greatest of all time. He has that World Cup, completes the trophy case, he completes football. Ronaldo gets benched. Unfortunate to see as a Ronaldo fan, but let's not dive into it. Shout out to Messi for winning the World Cup. Shout out to Argentina. They're still partying it up right now. It's crazy. I mean, I don't blame them. After 30 plus years, Argentina's finally champions again. Shout out to them. In the NFL, we're getting to the playoffs this weekend. Shout out to all 14 teams that played it, that are going to be in it. And let's talk about, we're going to talk about the Packers and Lions and how the Packers get eliminated by the Lions. The Lions look like they've turned a corner, so shout out to them. Also, week 18 of the NFL was J.J. Watt's last game as a professional. And man, I'm going to miss him. He's a personality. He's a great football player. And you know what? Just to keep it short and sweet, if you could match up his first 5 years and compare them against anybody's first 5 years, and J.J. Watt comes out on top. We all talk about, Aaron Donald being the greatest defender of all time with the stuff that he's done, and he has been amazing. But J.J. Watt was literally like Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald. He was doing it. He was killing it. He was breaking records. He was on ungodly pace for sacks. We were looking at his career first 5 years thinking like this guy could really go for like 200 sacks. Like he might really like go crazy in his career. And then the injuries piled up, and we'll get to it. But J.J. Watt retires. We'll talk about that. In tennis, the Team USA wins the inaugural United Cup, which is very exciting for USA. Fritz is looking dangerous. Tiafoe's confidence is through the roof. He's an entertainer on the court, and now he's pretty much putting everything together. Pegula beats Swiatek, the greatest female tennis player right now. Makes her look silly in that match. Swiatek, cries after the match, understandably so. She felt like she left her country down, Poland. But Pegula, she could have a great 2023. Coco Gauff, who wasn't there for the United Cup, wins another title, first one in like 2-3 years, I believe. So, USA is on the come up. We'll talk about that. It's exciting times for the U.S. right now in tennis, approaching the Australian Open. And in, the world of soccer, the world of football, I'm still salty. I'm still salty about the Wolves versus Liverpool 2-2 tie. There's going to be a replay. I believe it got announced. It doesn't matter. I'm still salty that the Wolves' third goal got called for offsides when there was no offsides. It's honestly very, very upsetting as a fan of a smaller team to get these calls against you. So we'll touch on that. And, we'll talk about VAR and its letdowns and its shortcomings, and how, we're pretty much like, year 4, year 5 of VAR. And to be honest, it's good, but we'll touch on it. And also, Gareth Bale retires, and in my humble opinion, I think he's the greatest British football player of all time. No disrespect to Rooney, no disrespect to Gerrard and Terry and Lampard and the greats before then, or even like a player right now like Kane. No disrespect to all of them. I think Gareth Bale is the greatest British player of all time, and I hope he enjoys retirement. Since he retired, there's people keep bringing up like the drama and sticky situation he had with Real Madrid towards the end and all that other stuff. Let's just celebrate his career and, wish him a well retirement. But all of that on this episode of the Heart to Handle Sports Podcast. Let's get started. the Lions really eliminated the Packers in the last game of the regular season. What what an accomplishment for the Lions, who had very little expectations going into this year. They draft Jamison Williams, who tore his ACL in college. They're hopeful that their offense could look good. They're holding on to Jared Goff because he has a lot of dead cap. Not too much, not too much. To look forward to. You're just hoping Aiden Hutchinson with the second overall pick could be a consistent impact defensive player, could help that god awful defense. You're hoping Jamison Williams could heal from ACLs. We've had a lot of progress with ACL injuries over the years. Hopefully he could come back, impact the offense. And you have, Brown, St. Brown, and Jamison Williams. You have two bookend wide receivers. And you start building. You start this rebuilding process. You think you have something in Campbell. You like his character. You like, the way he talks to the press. And you're just hoping to build something. To go from that to finishing the season 9-8 and being half a game out from making the playoffs, eliminating the Packers, who have bullied you for the better part of 30 years from Favre and Rodgers. That's crazy. Like, shout out to the Lions. Let's give it up to the Lions for a great 2022-2023 season. But before we continue congratulating the Lions, let's talk about Rodgers real quick. Jamison Williams goes up to him at the end of the game, asking for the jersey swap, which I might say it's a little bit optimistic. Jamison Williams, I like your confidence. I don't know if they talked about it before, but for Jamison Williams, who, he's still not getting like the full snap count. He's still coming back from the ACL. He's had some big plays, but he's still pretty much an unknown in the NFL. I think he's going to have a great career, but he hasn't done much in the NFL rookie season. Played like 5 games, if that, 4 games. To go up to Aaron Rodgers and ask for that jersey swap. Props to Jamison Williams. I aspire to have that confidence and just go up to one of the greats and be like, yo, we're switching jerseys. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is like, nah, I'm going to hold on to this one. And, that got everyone talking on Twitter, on sports group chats, on your fantasy football group chats. Like, yo, Aaron Rodgers might be done. This might be it. This is it. And then the way the camera followed him into the tunnel and he's like walking off with Randall Cobb and they're like embracing each other and they're kind of like looking at each other. And you're like, this looks very cinematic. This looks like a scene from a movie. Like, we're about to cut to the credits and it's about to be like, that's it. End of the movie. So it kind of feels like Aaron Rodgers is done with the Packers. Is he done with his career? And he has been talking about it like the last few seasons about possibly retiring. So we'll see how it unfolds. What do you guys think? You think Aaron Rodgers comes back to the Packers for one more year, or you think that's it? You think he retires, or they trade him? He goes to the Titans, goes to the Raiders, maybe. I don't know. Is he gonna be all time or like a lifer for the Packers, one team, or is he gonna go somewhere else? The Titans might be intriguing. Go play with Vrabel. But I don't know. Are we reading too much into it? But I don't think we are. I'm going to hold on to this one. The walking off with Randall Cobb, one of his longtime friends. One of the, old-time Packers left, came back. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about of Rodgers playing with another team. It's definitely going to look weird. I think other teams might be weary that he showed, he wasn't up to the talent that he showed the last 2 years where he's been at an MVP level. And, with Wilson struggling, Brady struggling a little bit, old quarterbacks, Matt Ryan struggling. Is it that attractive to get old quarterbacks at the end of their career? We'll see, but something to keep an eye out, something that's definitely going to be talked about the whole offseason. Aaron Rodgers retiring, coming back to the Packers, going somewhere else. It's going to be interesting. We'll stay up to date. If I had to put money on him retiring, staying, or leaving, honestly, I think he gets traded. I think he stays, he plays in the NFL, and he goes to a different team. That's my gut feeling. But back to the Lions. Enough Aaron Rodgers, they're out. I will say this. Aaron Rodgers was talking like the Packers had already qualified to the playoffs after week 17, when they were 8-8 and they were in a win and in situation. I thought it was a little disrespectful to the Lions. I thought it might come back to bite them, and it did. The Lions had nothing to play for, and they played their heart out. They were calling some dope-ass plays. Bubble screen, pitch it back to the running back, run it. Like, it was crazy. What a good offensive play calling by the Lions. They were playing very free, and you could tell that they wanted to eliminate the Packers. And they do it. They go into Lambeau, they get it done. And, man, the Lions are dope. Honestly, the Lions are dope. Like, they're sick. Campbell, at first, I thought he was a little too much, but I've grown to like him. Campbell's sick. He's dope. I do worry about, that type of coaching where it's all, like, bravado and it's a lot of, like, using your personality and being the biggest voice and biggest guy in the room. How long that could hold on? Like at some point it's like, okay, dude, like, it's your 5th year here. Are you still that pumped up? And, like, so, but I do think he's a good coach. He's backed it up this season. I think he's a player's coach. He's a good coach. So I think they're going to be trending up. Jared Goff, man, shout out to you. I was one of Goff's haters or truthers, if I might say. Like, he was not. I thought his numbers were overinflated with the Rams playing under McVay. I thought they were overinflated. I thought those numbers were fake. I thought, kind of like Garoppolo, kind of like, yeah, 80-yard pass, but you threw it 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and Debo ran it 83 yards for a touchdown. I thought his numbers were a little overinflated. I didn't think he was that good, like, because he did have some good seasons with the Rams, but you saw the plays, and he left a lot of yards on the field, like a 40-yard pass, but the wide receiver had to, like, throw him, like, make a hard catch if you put it, like, more accurate. If you throw a more accurate pass, he stays on his feet and keeps running. Stuff like that, where I'm like, 40-yard pass could have been 60, type of stuff like that. But this year, especially the last 9 games of the season, Goff, silences his haters, silences, me, and he looks good. He looks decisive on that 4th down, or 4th and 2, 4th and 3 to end the game, to send the Packers home. Looks decisive in that throw, and he just looks very, very comfortable in the pocket. Shout out to the Lions O-line too. I did not know that they were that good, but last few weeks of the season, keeping up on them on Red Zone and watching highlights and seeing Sunday Night Football, that O-line is dope. So the offense is definitely sick. They traded their tight end Hawkinson, but their other tight end looks serviceable. They have 2, St. Brown, he's a great wide receiver. His yak is, like, amazing. Jameson Williams has insane potential, and Jared Goff looks like he could be not just a stopgap quarterback, but he could still progress. He's still young. He's 28 years old. Very young for a quarterback, especially nowadays. So we'll see. They'll probably re-sign him, and they have a top 5 pick, I believe, or top 10 pick, which is, I forgot how they got that, but they do have a top pick, and they're just going to keep building through the draft. Campbell's that guy. He's a dope-ass coach. With Goff looking like a real quarterback now, Aaron Rodgers might be on the way out. No one really believes in the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. I do like Kirk Cousins, but, no one really thinks that they're going to reign supreme over the NFC North for, like, 5-10 years. Like, no one really thinks that, even though, I like what they got going on over there. And I like, their weapons, and I think their first-year coach, did a great job this year. No one really thinks they're just going to take over the NFC North and dominate it for 10 years or 5 or even 3. So it's wide open. I think the Lions, as soon as next year, could be, like, a very interesting pick to win the NFC North. And their defense needs some work. Started off disgusting this season. If their defense was just a tiny bit better the first, like, 6-7 games of the season, they're in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs, and they're playing this weekend. But Aiden Hutchinson, he looks like he's a real thing. Love the interview after the game. Love his energy. And we'll see. Number 2 overall pick. I think he lived up to it his first year. If you get more talent around him, if you get more pieces on that defense, I think he shines even more next year. And the Lions are sick, man. The Lions are sick. They've been the laughingstock for the NFL for so long. In the recent years, we've seen the Browns turn it around a little bit. Right now, we'll see if how they do next year. And now we're seeing the Lions turn it around. It's good, man. It's good to see these once bottom feeders, bottom of the barrel teams do good. But shout out to the Lions for eliminating the Packers. Great season. Fell a little short, 9-8. No one. That's like 6 more wins than most people thought they were going to have this year. So on to a great 2023-2024 season. J.J. Watt retires, and although he had a great NFL career, first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he might not even be first ballot with the way that there's a logjam in the Hall of Fame voting. But I think he should be first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's one of the greatest defensive players of all time, and he's still one of the biggest what ifs in NFL history, in my opinion. Like, if you see J.J. Watt's first 5 seasons, you see his numbers, you see he's 2-3 Defensive Players of the Year awards in the first 5 years. That's insane. He won 3 Defensive Players of the Year in 4 years. He had 2 20.5 sack seasons in his first five years in the NFL. Like, especially that 4-year run, 20.5, 10.5, 20.5, 17.5. Like, that's crazy. Age 25 season, age 26 season, he was destroying the NFL. He was Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald. He was the man. Like, his projections were insane. Like, you could realistically look at him, and he hadn't missed a game at that point. Age 26, he had not missed a game. He had 3 Defensive Player of the Years. He had 2 20-plus sack seasons. He was scoring touchdowns on offense, like, as a tight end. It was insane. He was carrying the Texans to the playoffs with Matt Schaub as a quarterback. He was scoring touchdowns as a tight end. He was returning interceptions for touchdowns in the playoffs. He was doing everything. He was literally a one-man machine. It was incredible. Like, if you were not watching the NFL during that era, you missed out on one of the highest peaks that any player has ever achieved, ever, on defense, on offense, ever. And, like, I'm telling you, the projections were insane. Like, you could really, like, look at his career at that point. He hadn't missed a game. He had 2 20-plus seasons. He had 3 Defensive Player of the Year campaigns. You're like, how many is he gonna end up with? Like, 3 in his first 5 years. Like, even like lowballing it, you were like, he might end up with 5 if you lowball it. Like, he's gonna play. He's 26. He's probably gonna play till he's 34, 35. He's gonna rack up like 1 or 2 more, minimum. He's gonna end up with 1 or 2 more. This is the things that you were talking about back in 2015. And sadly, he never won another one. He never had another 20-plus sack season. As a matter of fact, he never topped that 17.5 season that he had at age 26 when he won his 3rd Defensive Player of the Year. And sadly, he was just ravaged by injuries. And that's why I think he's one of the biggest what-ifs in NFL history. Like, the man was unblockable. He was ridiculous as soon as the snap. Like, tackles for loss, sacks, quarterback hits, all those stats were crazy. Like, there's some players that have a lot of sacks, and that's it. They don't have that many tackle for losses. Their quarterback hits are almost even with their sacks, which is, like, it's good, I guess, because they're maximizing their good rushes, but it also means that they're not really rushing the quarterback. J.J. Watt was doing everything. He was batting down passes. He was getting sacks. He was getting QB hits. He was getting pressures. He was doing everything. Like, man, I wish, if you didn't watch it, man, I wish you could have been there to see that. It was ridiculous. And for him to, never miss a game before 2015. And then in 2016, he only plays 3 games. And then the next season, he only plays 5. Comes back, has a healthy season, 16 sacks. 2nd in the comeback player of the year. Looking great, looking good. J.J. Watt's back. Next year, only plays 8 games, another injury. Next year, he plays 16, but it's a down year. He only has 5 sacks. He goes to Arizona, injured again, only plays 7 games, 1 sack. And at this point, you're like, damn, this might be it. Like, he's not. He keeps getting hurt. He played like the season before this one. He played all 16. He only had 5 sacks. This year he played 7 games. He only had 1. Like it's looking bad for my boy J.J. Watt. And this year he comes back, plays all 16 games, has 12.5 sacks, and you're like, okay, good job J.J. Watt. Like you had a good season. It's not great. It's not amazing. 12.5 sacks. It's good. It's a really good season. And I was hopeful that he would come back. He could clearly still get it done. But I don't know. I'm not in the mind of JJ Watt, but I think he sees this 12.5 season, which is kind of sad what I'm about to say. But he sees this 12.5 season, and he sees it probably as the highest that he could leave the game. Like who's to say that he doesn't come back next year, tries to play it, tries to give it another go, and he doesn't get hurt again. Like we've seen his injury history after 2016. He's had 3 seasons where he's played all 16 games out of 7 years. So half of the years he's not healthy. More than half of the years he's not healthy. So, as sad as this sounds, he probably looked at this 12.5 season and he's like, you know what? Like, I want to leave on a high. I want to leave on a good note. I want to leave as a player that's still serviceable. Like, I want the last memory of me to be, like, a 12.5 a season sack player. Like, I was good. I left as a good player instead of, like, I left as an injured player or I left as a player that couldn't get it done. And which is sad. But, I mean, JJ Watt, he seems like a great person. I follow him on Twitter. He tweets some good stuff. He seems like a good person. He speaks out on stuff. And like I said, he's one of the biggest what ifs. He's a Hall of Famer, but he could have like really been, the greatest defensive player of all time. And if he would have stayed healthy, we would have had a real debate like Aaron Donald versus JJ Watt. Who's greatest? Who's gonna make the Mount Rushmore, or who's the greatest of all time? And it sucks that he was with Houston for most of his career. Like, they're not gonna win. They weren't really ever, they never really had a Super Bowl window, realistically. Even like his best years, when Schaub was still like pretty good, and even with Watson, like they were never Super Bowl contenders. And with Arizona, he probably thought, if he goes there with Hopkins, Murray as a young quarterback, like they just could never really get it done in the 2 years that he was there. This year was such a disappointment. So I feel sad for JJ Watt. He never was really part of a team that had a real shot of winning the Super Bowl, and it's upsetting because he's an all-time great. But I'm kind of glad that he's walking out. He's finishing his career healthy, playing all 16 games, or playing 16 out of 17 games in a season. Now that they're 17, and I wish him the best in his future endeavors. I hope he stays around in the NFL. I could see him being a personality, like on a NFL talk show. Opening up in the mornings, being like in the studio, or maybe even doing some commentary. Like he seems to have like a personality, and I feel like he's one of those players that'll stick around and still be around the game. So I'm hopeful for that, especially because his brothers are still in the NFL. TJ Watt and I forget the other guy's name, the fullback. They're still in the NFL, so I think he'll stick around. So JJ Watt, best of luck in retirement. Another player that's retiring is Gareth Bale. He announces his retirement this week. He's retiring. He was a current LAFC soccer player. They won the MLS Cup, the MLS title this season. Gareth Bale scoring in the final a header, a very iconic MLS goal to send the game to penalties. But man, I said that he's the greatest British player of all time, and I got some pushback. People are throwing around Rooney, they're throwing around Terry, Lampard, Gerrard. Everyone has somebody's Scholes. But for me, I mean, I'm biased. Like I guess I'll say I'm a little biased because I'm a Real Madrid fan. I'm a Wolves fan too, so as far as the Premier League, I don't think I really have a bias. But as a Madrista, I probably do have, that Madrid bias going for him. But I'll just say this, he didn't play for England. He played for Wales. He got them deep into the Euros in 2016. Incredible run. They could have possibly made the finals. He was great that year. He got them into their World Cup. He scored a goal in the World Cup. Shout out to the U.S. for giving him a penalty so he could score a goal in the World Cup. But like he did so much with Wales. He was their star. He was carrying that team. Even in those dark seasons when he wasn't really playing with Madrid, he would always show up for Wales. He would always like Gareth Bale hasn't played in like a month with Madrid, but it's international break and you hear like this man scores a banger free kick or it has an incredible run down the sidelines. And he gets like a hockey assist and Wales wins and it's just crazy. I'm like, are Madrid watching this? I remember those like how come he's not starting with Madrid? Look at him, how great he does with Wales. And that bicycle kick in the final with Madrid, like that was ridiculous. Probably the greatest Champions League final goal in the final of all time. Like that shit was incredible. And I think there's a lot to be said about Gareth Bale going to Spain for the challenge. Not staying in the Premier League and the comfort of the Premier League and going to Spain, going to a country where, he doesn't know the language, going with the pressure of going to Madrid, with all their history, with, the Galacticos and how much money they put. And Real Madrid is a great club. I'm a Madrista, but I understand, like, it's tough to play for Madrid because, like, you can't, like, you have a slump and there's a player behind you ready to go play your position. And, they'll give you a couple games to get back into form. If you're not in form, like that, the expectations are so high around Madrid that, like, bro, like you really don't get time to like work your way back into it or, recover from an injury and take your time. Like, it's just like the pressure is so high, the competition's so fierce that you really got to stay healthy. And when you're not healthy, you got to come back and like be firing on all cylinders, which is kind of sad and it kind of sucks, but it's also what makes Madrid great, with that philosophy, that competition, that aggressiveness towards their players. And the expectations are crazy high, so you got to have a crazy amount of mental fortitude. I'm not saying Bale didn't, but he was very unlucky with injuries, so I think that played a big factor on why things went sour with Madrid. I remember, a little tunnel vision when you're in it. Like, I was very frustrated with Bale with all his injuries. It was like, come on, man, just stay injured. We need you. I mean, just stay healthy. Like, stop getting injured. We need you. But when he played, man, he was great, and he won. He's a key factor to most of those Champions Leagues. There's seasons or parts of seasons where he definitely looked like he was the best player in Real Madrid, even with Ronaldo being there. And overall, I think Ronaldo was the best player for most seasons, but there was definitely like times in the seasons where Gareth Bale was like killing it, and you were like, oh, he's looking like the best player in Real Madrid. And he's a big game player. Like that run against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey, a Champions League final, even to a lesser degree. I know people make fun of the MLS, but that goal in the final in the MLS, like big time players make big plays in the finals. And like, I know Rooney has better stats, but he did play striker where Gareth was out wide. But I test, as far as enjoying their games, I enjoyed Gareth Bale more. I do think he could have probably finished out his career a little bit better, but it is what it is. He's healthy. He made some money. He's probably set for a couple generations to come, and he got to play. He got to play in the U.S. I did get to see him when they played against San Jose Sharks, so I was happy to see him play live. But yeah, who do you guys think is the greatest British player of all time? I do think it's Bale. I could see the argument for Rooney. I could even see the argument for like Gerrard or Lampard. Who do you guys think is the greatest player of all time? I think it's Gareth Bale. I like the goals, the runs that he was doing. He was in his peak with Tottenham. Like, I'm thinking Champions League against Inter and like some runs that he did the year before Real Madrid in the Premier League. Like, this guy was really like unplayable. Like, it was ridiculous that pace that he had was like you had never seen that type of pace with on that height since Ronaldo. And Ronaldo had a little more flair, and he was a little more skinny build in my opinion. He had more flair. He was more of a trickster in the Premier League, but Bale was just like a unstoppable force. Like he was a little thicker. He's probably a little bit faster, and he was just like he'll put his head down and he'll dribble and he just go crazy. And it was mostly just straight line speed and cuts, whereas Ronaldo would do a bunch of tricks. But it was just a sight to be seen, seeing Gareth Bale dominate the Premier League. Like it was insane. And that left foot, like he had a very, very polished left foot. Like that left foot was insane. Like volleys, the dribbling, the crosses, the free kicks. Like the free kicks were looking nasty. Like they were really looking like prime Ronaldo free kicks. Like they were in the dip on them. It was insane. Like he was crazy. I remember when Real Madrid signed him, I was like, bro, we really got Gareth Bale and Ronaldo on the same team. Like pace for days and height, and like it was so nasty. He was great. Bale was great. He's a Real Madrid great. He's a Premier League great. And for my money, he's the greatest British player of all time. So we wish Gareth Bale a happy retirement. Go enjoy the rest of your life. I doubt he's going to stick around the world of football. I think he's going to go play golf. He's going to maybe show up to a couple Welsh games. And that's about it. He's going to enjoy his retirement wherever it is. If it's in the U.S., welcome. Enjoy L.A., enjoy Hollywood, enjoy wherever you retire. If it's somewhere else, if you go back to England, go to Wales, have a good retirement, man. It was a pleasure to see you play. But something that wasn't a pleasure, something that irks me still to this day, 3-4 days removed, is that VAR decision against the Wolves in the FA Cup match against Liverpool. Like, I've had VAR rants already on this podcast, and you could search it up probably on YouTube or on wherever you listen to your podcast. I've ranted about VAR, and I haven't done one in a while, but it's back. Like the ineptitude and what seems like blatant corruption is insane. Like people were saying, like the jokes that were running around when VAR came around was, rip Real Madrid, rip whichever big team you didn't like. Those were the jokes that were being run around. Like rip Barcelona, rip Real Madrid, rip Manchester United, City, whoever was the big team in your league. Everyone was like rip. Like finally we have technology in the world of football. The transparency is gonna be great. There's not going to be no more swayed decisions. Everything's going to be transparent. Everyone's going to be clear to everyone. You're not going to get these decisions that seem to go in favor of a team because they're, quote unquote, a great team, and they're getting these calls. These referees are biased. These refs are paid off, all this stuff. And in 4 or 5 years of VAR being fully implemented in these leagues, I feel like it's been the opposite. I feel like the big teams get benefited more and more and more. And it's just insane. And, I am a supporter of a big team like Real Madrid. But I love my Wolves. So I'm speaking as a Wolves fan right now. Like, what the fuck was that against Liverpool? You look at it from any angle that are circling around on Twitter, on the internet, and there's no way that was an offsides. There's no way. The delay on the offsides call was like too big in my opinion. Like it definitely, there's conspiracies going around about the ref giving the sideline ref a signal to raise his flag, call off sides. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that conspiracy, but like I do see the motion. So, who's to say that's not true? Also, I think I think the Nunes offsides is circumstantial. I don't think that's what the ref was originally raising his. I don't think that's what he originally raised his offsides flag for. I think he raised it for Totti, the guy who scored the goal. And then when it became evident that he was on sides and they wanted the offside to stick, they were like, "Oh, but Nunes over there, like we can't see that. We can't see him in that camera angle." And like that's why he raised his flag, and we can't confirm that he is on sides, so no goal. When like the Nunes play was way at like, if he's calling offsides for that, that should have been called like as soon as it hits Huang's head. Like Huang's head kicks it back towards Nunes. He goes, gets it. Like raise your flag at that point. Like there's not really a chance, an imminent chance of goal at that point. The ball is kicked out wide. If you think it's offsides, call it right there. But then, Nunes does like a cut, centers it, it falls on somebody, he kicks it, Totti backheels it. Totti and the Wolves start running away, start celebrating, and then he raises his flag. Like, what? Incredible. But, okay, the refs lagged it to call it. He did call, let's just say he did call the offsides on Nunes. VAR doesn't have the whole field available to them. There's not a camera that has that has Nunes on screen in their point of view, in their vision. What's the point of VAR? Like, who's running this system? Who's putting the cameras on the stadium? It's Anfield. It's not even like a fourth division team, third division, championship, League One, League Two. It's a Liverpool, like the second most prominent team in the Premier League these last 5-6 years. City, Liverpool, the two mainstays, the two protagonists in the Premier League, in English football. They're the two protagonists these last 5-6 years. And you're telling me that Anfield doesn't have the full field available to be reviewed through VAR? What's the point of VAR? What's the point of VAR? And like, it's ridiculous. And like I said, when VAR got introduced, everyone was like, rip Real Madrid, rip Barcelona, rip Manchester United, rip Liverpool. There's going to be transparency. There's not going to be no more cheating. You're not going to get away with this. You're not going to get... And it just seems like it's the opposite. Big teams seems to get more favorable calls. Big teams never get their fouls reviewed. Big teams, if you push a big team player, automatic check. It's going to get checked. It's going to get checked. Just accept it. If it hits your hand, you're playing a big team, getting checked, most likely going to be a penalty. You did this against a big team, VAR is reviewing it. A big team does the same thing, VAR doesn't take a look. VAR lets it go. It's insane. And if that's how VAR is going to be run, and if VAR doesn't even have the full field available for their review, what's the point of VAR? Like, let's just leave it to the refs and get mad at refs. And that's how football was, and we accepted it. Like, refs make mistake, human error. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's kind of how you sucked it up back in the day. And not even that far back in the day, like 5-6 years ago. Ref fucked up. Humans aren't perfect. It is what it is. Like, all right, the ref was bought. People were talking about that. Now it just seems like it's systematic. Now it's like, wait, the ref fucked up. The person running VAR fucked up. The league is definitely in it. Like, they want to help the big teams. They're like, it just, what was initially thought of as a system, as a product that was gonna help bring transparency and help eliminate these bullshit calls that help the big teams. It's now like, it's helping them even more. It's protecting the status quo. It's not letting small teams have a fair fight against these bigger teams, and it's upsetting. It's upsetting as a Wolves fan, and they're gonna probably give some whack ass explanation. whatever explanation they give is gonna be bullshit. But like, if you just think about it, Anfield, home of Liverpool, most winningest team in England, prominent team this last 6 years, doesn't have the full field available to them for VAR. Like, what kind of shit are you in here? Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. I was never a proponent for VAR, and now I just seem to be pulling my hair out pretty consistently with these VAR decisions. The lack of VAR when you need VAR sometimes, like there's not one weekend of football where I don't see people like that didn't get checked, and it's usually smaller team that doesn't get the checks, and then it's usually the big teams that get these iffy calls going against them. Let me not get started with Argentina in the World Cup. That's for another episode, not today. But yeah, VAR again, leaves a sour taste in my mouth. What do you guys think? Have you guys enjoyed VAR? If you guys are fans of smaller teams, do you guys remember what I'm mentioning right now? Where it's like, rip Barcelona, rip Real Madrid, rip Manchester United, rip Liverpool. VAR is gonna kill all you guys' cheating ways. And now you're like, damn, VAR is just helping them out more than the refs were back in the day. But yeah, I'm still very hot about that decision, and hopefully the Wolves are able to win at Molineux and eliminate Liverpool from the FA Cup. Lopetegui has done a great job taking over for Bruno Lage. So hopefully the Wolves stay in the Premier League. But good job for Lopetegui. I like him. I think he's gonna turn around the Wolves. So let's leave it at that. Let's leave on a good note. Shout out Lopetegui. Team USA wins the inaugural United Cup in Sydney, Australia, and I might say things are looking up for American tennis right now. In the men's side, Fritz is looking dangerous, top 10 player, finished a great 2022, finished strong, looking like he could be a real dark horse in the Australian Open. Tiafoe's confidence has been at an all-time high. He's carrying that swag into the court. He's doing his little soft bait, even though he should tone it down after what soft bait did at the World Cup. But it's starting to become Tiafoe's thing. He's confident as ever. He's entertaining. He's an entertainer, and he's playing probably the best tennis of his career right now. Pegula literally making Swiatek cry for beating her, dominating the number one female tennis player in the world. And Coco, who was not there with the United States team at the United Cup, wins a title of her own, first singles title in I think 2 years. So things are looking up for U.S. men tennis and female tennis right now. Serena Williams retired last year. She was carrying the mantle for Team USA, for USA Tennis for the longest. It was pretty much just the females carrying, with Serena and Venus being the mainstays. The men's side has been struggling since Roddick retired. Since even when Roddick was playing, the latter years, he wasn't really winning stuff like that. So it's been a minute since the men's tennis has really, given American fans something to be excited about. So Fritz looking dangerous. Like, he played some pretty high-ranked players in the United Cup. He beat Berrettini. His ranking fell down a little bit because he was injured, but he was like a top 10 mainstay for a while. Hurkacz, he beat Hurkacz, who he's been like he's been top 10ish for the better part of the last few years. And he had a great match against Cameron Norrie. He did lose to Norrie, but great match against Cameron Norrie. Like, both of them played exceptional tennis. Fritz looked good, Norrie looked good. At the end, Norrie won. But Fritz, man, I seen him play. I saw him at the San Diego Open 2 years ago. I don't remember if I saw him at Indian Wells last year, but I like what I see, man. SoCal kid. It looks like he's really developing. 24, 25 years old. I think he won. What did he win last year? He won Shanghai, first Masters 1000, or second Masters 1000. He won, or was it a 500? I think it's a 500. He won Indian Wells. Yeah, like, I think he has a real shot to go deep in the Australian Open. I will lower, keep my expectations realistic, because I thought he was, I thought he could go very deep in the U.S. Open, and he ended up like crashing out like in the first or second round. And even I follow him on Instagram, so I saw like how upset he was, and his press conference afterwards kind of sad. He was like I feel so silly for even allowing myself to believe that I could win the U.S. Open. But man, I hope he's feeling a little silly right now, man. I think he really has a chance to win the Australian Open, go deep, and make a deep run, and we'll see how it plays out. Tiafoe also, like, Tiafoe's been one of my favorite players, and to see him like, start to put everything together, like, he's a clutch player now too. Like, I remember last year he had a great run of just winning tie breaks. He won like 7 or 8 in a row, which was insane. And now, like, you see him play, and sometimes he gets himself in some sticky situations, and he just serves his way out of it, ace, or like, backs himself up with his serve. So this is exciting times for American tennis. Like, what do you guys think? Like, how far could Fritz go in the Australian Open? How far could Tiafoe go? Could we see two male Americans in the top 10 by the end of this year? Like, I think Fritz is going to stay there. Like, he seems to have the talent and the form right now to keep that top 10 ranking. Tiafoe is in the teens right now. I believe he's like 15, 16. So he definitely has a chance to break into the top 10 if he has a good 2023. Coco and Pegula, like, I think they're going to have great years too. Pegula, 28 years old. I think she could use this momentum. Top 5 female players right now. She could carry this momentum from beating Swiatek in the United Cup to, make some noise in the Australian Open. Coco, still young as hell, has her whole career ahead of her, but to win another singles title after she's been killing it in doubles, being like, she's probably the best female double player right now, and she's a really, really good singles player too. So good for her for winning another title. Like I said, I'm so pumped for American tennis right now, and let me know what you guys think. Like, how far could Americans go in the Australian Open? What are you guys' expectations for Team USA or the Americans this season? We're in January. It's gonna be a long season. This is barely the start of the tennis season. Man, tennis is year round. I've been a very casual fan for the longest, just catching games here and there. But I've really like hunkered down and become like a real tennis fan just maybe 2-3 years ago, where like I really like follow like every tournament and try to find a way to watch it. And tennis season is long, man. There's like tennis every day of the year, it seems like. So season started. I'm so happy. We're gonna have tennis for like the whole year, basically till November. And I'll make a Australian Open predictions episode. Nadal's gonna go into it as the number 1 seed. Unfortunate that my boy Alcaraz is gonna miss out with an injury. I just saw an update video that he posted on his Instagram. He's doing a little rehabilitation, so wish him the best in recovery. But that should do it for this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast, first one of 2023. And if you made it to the end, thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode.